I don't think I have to tell you what you're seeing here today. This is Harley-Davidson's first ADV in a long time. It is called the Pan America 1250 and it has its guns trained on the likes of the BMW R1250 GS, Ducati Multistrada and the lot. But more importantly, this is the product that Harley-Davidson is banking on heavily to save itself from fading away, not just in global markets, but also here in India. So we have had this motorcycle for a couple of days and I have to say for an ADV and for a Harley-Davidson, it is an interesting motorcycle. So after experiencing the Harley-Davidson 1250, we thought we'll break it down for you guys in 3 parts and we'll share the good, the bad and the ugly things about the Harley-Davidson Pan America that you need to know.
You're watching the autoX YouTube channel. You can also get your daily dose of all things automotive on our website autox.com and follow us on social media. Don't forget to check out our monthly magazine and make sure to hit the bell and subscribe button so you don't miss a thing.
The star of the show here is of course the all-new 1250cc Revolution Max engine. Now this engine, it's been built completely from the ground up and it is cutting edge. The internals, everything that's on offer, everything that's been put into that engine, well, it's all modern. First of all, this is a 60-degree V-twin engine and the crank pins have been offset by 30 degrees. So that means it has a firing order of a 90-degree V-twin engine, much like the Multistrada 1260. And I think in terms of behavior also, it feels like Ducati's V-twin. That means there is grunt everywhere, especially low-mid RPMs like 4000 RPM to all the way up to 9000 RPM, which is where it redlines. This is a Harley-Davidson, remember, it redlines at 9000 RPM. So that in itself is a little too impressive. But coming to the engine behavior, of course, it has a very unique sound. It doesn't sound like your typical Harleys. It has a more throaty sort of exhaust note. Of course, during cold starts, you can feel that typical Harley jangle coming from the engine, but that is only during cold starts because the valve train noise is still there. Again, speaking of the valve train, well, this one comes with hydraulic tappets, so that means they are maintenance free unlike other bikes. So this is one area where this has an edge over the likes of the BMW GS or even the Ducati Multistrada. Now in terms of performance, it is a very quick motorcycle. You'll absolutely love it. The throttle response is really crisp. Even at low RPMs, you're pottering around in city in 3rd or 4th gears, it is quite comfortable. Plus, yes, it is a heavy motorcycle. It weighs around 258 kilograms, but still the performance is more than adequate. It is a very aggressive motorcycle. You just turn it into sport mode and you'll see this turns into a sports motorcycle of sorts. Now the 6-speed gearbox, of course, it's quite smooth, but I thought the gear shifts were a little clunky and the shifts are a little too long. So that feels like a Harley. Of course, they had to put some character in this motorcycle of typical Harleys, but it won't bother you. In fact, the clutch is also cable actuated, but it's very nice. It has a lot of feel and it's quite light also. If you're riding at low speeds or if you're in city, you're doing low speed off-roading, there's a good bite from the clutch. Other thing that I really appreciate about this motorcycle is the ergonomics and comfort. Now this has tall handlebars, it's very comfortable. You sit on the road, you can virtually cross countries with this motorcycle. It is made for that. And the refinement is also quite good. The suspension, this is the special version, so it comes with semi-active electronic suspension sourced from Showa, and it does a brilliant job. Of course, there are multiple modes. You can just pick and choose multiple modes for off-road riding, for road riding, whether you're riding in the rain, and the suspension behavior is quite good. It also comes with auto preload, so as soon as you sit on the motorcycle, it automatically adjusts the preload, which is a really nice thing because most of the riders in India, they don't care about the preload. It is one of the basic things, but most of the riders, well, they don't fiddle with it. Of course, if you put luggage, if you have a rider sitting along, it does that automatically, the preload. So that's a very kick-ass feature. It also comes with something called adaptive ride height. So as soon as you come to a stop, well, the suspension, it lowers automatically by close to 5 centimeters. So the seat height is around 850 millimeters. So that means it goes down nearly 50 millimeters. That means 800 millimeters of ride height. So that works for shorter riders if you're coming to a stop and the suspension automatically gauges. As soon as you stop, the suspension lowers the motorcycle. So that's again a very cool feature, very convenient feature. On this motorcycle, we didn't have it because it's an optional extra and I think it's close to 80,000 or 1 lakh rupees. But again, a good option. Other than that, there's a lot of kit on offer. You have all the electronics, you have multiple modes, and it's not just they're stuffed it with electronics. They work really beautifully. Whether you're riding it off-road, whether you're riding it on road, the electronics are really working in the background. And for Harley-Davidson, it's quite surprising, pleasantly surprising, I'd say, that a Harley-Davidson behaves this good. Now, the other thing is the handling. Of course, it's a big motorcycle. It's a long motorcycle compared to the GS or the Multistrada. This is a longer motorcycle, and it's also quite wide. But when you turn it around corners, it's an interesting thing. It really follows the line. But you have to be committed because this is a heavy motorcycle, like I said. So it doesn't turn in quickly, and you can't change your line mid-corner. You have to be committed whatever line you choose. So in that regard, I do think it's a very good handler. It's a very stable handler. But you have to be careful because there is a lot of weight and when you're leaning it over, you do feel the weight. But for a Harley-Davidson, again, even for a big bike, big ADV, it is a very good handler. Now, same goes for off-roading. The suspension does the job beautifully. You just have to put it in off-road soft or off-road firm, which is the suspension settings. So off-road soft is perfect if you're doing slow speed off-roading, as in you're going over boulders, rocks, slow speed off-roading. The suspension is more absorbent. Similarly, if you want to go on some fast trails, you can put it in off-road firm mode, and it is quite good. The motorcycle, it handles beautifully. The suspension is very taut and you like it. Now, I had a couple of problems with the suspension. I'll tell you when I discuss the bad bits. But overall, in terms of kit, the engine, the handling, the comfort, I think these are the strong points of the Pan America 1250. Now, other good thing about this motorcycle is that it undercuts its rivals quite significantly. This is priced at 19.99 lakh, 20 lakh more or less, but this is the top of the line model. This is the special version. If you go without the special version, which comes without semi-active suspension, and it also misses out on a couple of modes and the engine guard and the sump guard and the other body accessories, well, you can even buy it 16.99 lakh. So that's really good value for a motorcycle that's a proper ADV. Other than that, I also think it's an Harley-Davidson. It's their first ADV, so you definitely have a bit of cool factor with this motorcycle. So all in all, these are all the good points about the Harley-Davidson Pan America that we really appreciate. Since this is Harley-Davidson's first attempt at making an ADV, well, of course, there are a couple of misses. And first and foremost, the things that I don't like, I think this is a heavy motorcycle. Of course, you'd say all the other rivals like the GS or even the Multistrada, they are also big and heavy motorcycles. But with this one, you actually feel the weight. If you're riding it off-road, you'll feel the front heaviness. The front is really heavy, and if you're going to do quick maneuvers, well, this is where this motorcycle struggles. The other problem I had was the suspension. It feels a little clunky when you're going off-road, especially at low speeds. It doesn't have the finesse of the GS or even the Multistrada. Now, of course, that is a small niggle, but you do notice it, especially when you compare it against its main rivals. The other thing, it's also related to weight, is of course, it doesn't feel as balanced as a GS. So when you're off-roading slow speeds, you notice that the weight, it just tends to tip over quite immediately. It's not as balanced as a GS around corners, or even when you're off-roading or tiptoeing. Well, that's a tricky situation to be in with this kind of weight between your legs. So I think in that regard also, it doesn't quite have the balance of the GS or the Multistrada. Of course, it's Harley's first attempt. It's a great motorcycle, but I'd say in terms of handling, in terms of overall dynamics, I think it's still a level below the GS or the Multistrada. Among other things that Harley has missed with this motorcycle, I think it should have been equipped with a shaft drive, which is very common in this segment. Whether you check the GS or the Triumph Tiger 1200, there's a new one coming as well. Well, all of those motorcycles, they come with a shaft drive. The benefit of that is that it's virtually maintenance free. And if you're the sort of adventure rider who's into exploring new places, you ride on rough roads, well, this is one area where the Harley is lacking. It's been a couple of days riding this motorcycle. Before me, another publication, they were also riding this motorcycle. So I could already see the chain has rust and it started to make noise. This is not a Harley problem, of course. This is a chain drive, so you have to maintain it. But if you're on the road more frequently, if you are a tourer, well, this is something that will bug you over time. So if you can live with it, great. But I think personally it's a miss. So they should have included shaft drive with this motorcycle. The brakes are also quite decent, but I think they could have been better. They lack the initial bite. Other areas where Harley could have improved, well, the plastic quality is not that great. It doesn't feel like a 20 lakh rupee bike. You can see the plastic on the tank, it feels quite flimsy. The windscreen, it's of good quality, but the attachments, it is quite flimsy. And when you're riding at high speeds, you can feel it just moves around a lot. Quite a distraction. So I think is just a small job, but again, it is a little flimsy. The other thing is the display. Now, many people have complained, I've seen it on the internet, many people are complaining that the screen has really small font, but I don't think it's a problem. The problem for me is these buttons. There are buttons for virtually every feature in the Harley. So it's like a lot of buttons, and of course over time you'll probably get used to it, but initially it just confuses you a lot. Apart from this, there are a couple of features missing. First of all, it doesn't get a quick shifter, which is actually quite common in a motorcycle of this size and in this segment, but Harley has somehow missed it. The other thing is it comes with keyless ignition, and that's a great feature, but it also comes with a key, and that key is used for the tank as well as the handle lock. And this is a half-baked effort because it's really not that convenient. Of course, for ignition, you don't have to use it, but every night when you're going to park your bike, you want to lock it, you have to take the key out and do it. So I think it defeats the purpose. I think they should have given the whole deal when they were offering keyless ignition. I think the only part that really annoys you is the engine when it runs hot, and at low speed it really overheats a lot when you're riding in traffic or when you're off-roading, or even in this climate where it's not that hot. You'll feel the heat on your calves and leg, and that is going to drive you mad. You can't ride this motorcycle slow, honestly. So that is one area that Harley needs to look into, because of course it's a liquid cooled engine, but it's an oversquare engine. It revs pretty quickly and it heats up a lot. So that is my major grudge with this motorcycle. When you're riding it slow, even on the highway when you're cruising, you can feel the heat all the time. So that's one area that needs to be fixed. The other thing is the looks of this motorcycle. Now, I know a lot of people find this very cool. It's a Harley-Davidson ADV, like I said in the beginning, so it has a cool factor, and for a lot of people that has a lot of charm. But I'm not really a fan of the looks of this motorcycle. It looks a little too bulky. Now, you could say the GS or the Multistrada are also big motorcycles, but with the exception of the Multistrada, which I think is probably one of the most beautiful motorcycles, not just an ADV, but the R1250 GS is also a bit of a weird looking motorcycle, but it has grown on us because it's been around for 40 years. So that is a motorcycle that has cult following. The Pan America, well, it's relatively new, and there are some bits in its design that don't work. The front end, I actually don't like it at all. It is as if someone has put a big slab in the front. Of course, it comes with LED headlamps, quite cool. They're called Daybreaker, very Harley name. So of course, like I said, cool factor, but I'm not really a fan of the looks, and it's a very long motorcycle. So overall, the proportions don't quite work for me, but design is a subjective matter. So of course, I know there are people who are going to love the design of the Pan America, but for me, it doesn't work, and I think that is one of the main flaws of this motorcycle, at least for me. All told, I still think the Harley-Davidson Pan America, well, it is a great effort by the company. This is their first shot at making an ADV, and they've come so close to beating the likes of the GS or the Multistrada. And you absolutely have to applaud Harley-Davidson for that, because you know, the company has been going through some really tough times, but they have come out of this and they've come out with a product that is quite capable. Of course, it's not a perfect motorcycle, but it's not a compromise in any way. And the best part about the Pan America, which I absolutely love, is that it is a quintessential Harley. They haven't gone after GS, they haven't copied any other manufacturer. Instead, Harley-Davidson has produced a motorcycle that is so Harley in every way. Of course, it's modern, it's cutting edge, but when you're riding it, you know it has a Harley soul. So for me, I think for Harley loyalists, this is a great motorcycle. And remember, it's not a compromise. Of course, the GS is a better ADV, better all-round performer. But if you choose this motorcycle with your heart, well, I think it's a decision well made.